Buenos Dias Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack at it. And as you can tell by that thumbnail right there, yes, indeedy, we're talking about it. The M, the O, the D, man. Shout out, respects first and foremost to that 301 area. Man, menace of destruction, right? Once we're called masters of destruction, gravitated towards the words menace of destruction. And are they a menace? Indubitably. In a menudo style, in direct fashion, man, we're going to get straight to it. And I'm going to tell you guys the real. We're going to separate the real from the real fake, right? We're going to separate the men from the boys. We're going to separate them suckers from some real motherfuckers, right? Trip out how we do this and in this fashion. So, the menace of destruction. I grew up with these cats. You know, they're an Asian gang, predominantly a Hmong gang, right? Hmong. Hmongs being very deep in the state of California. You know, somewhere along the line, man, a lot of immigrants came from, you know, Vietnam, that area, and the Hmong population grew within Merced, California, right? I grew up right on the west. Man, there were some real Hmongs, man. I went to school with them as a young kid, as a young buck to a new motherfucker. All I can say is they're real ones. But I remember the very first gangs in Merced being the Black Tigers, which were predominantly Hmong as well, and Vietnamese, as well as the Menace of Destruction. At that time, they were calling themselves the Masters of Destruction. M.O.D. and man, oh, were they destructive, right? These vatos were putting it down, and they were starting to accumulate bodies, starting to accumulate soldados, starting to accumulate what they had going on, man. The Hmong community is a very humbled community, very quiet, go about their business. They're about making their money. They're about running their program. At the same time, man, they're not to be fucking stepped on or looked past or anything like that, because these vatos will handle their business, right? Now, we've never had problems in Merced with the M.O.D. In fact, the Norteños that were in Merced actually functioned side by side with the M.O.D. We were cool. We kept it on a cool level, man. Because sabes que, quietly as it's kept, they had cuetes, right? A whole lot of them and nothing but them. And hey, to be honest with you, I'm going to tell you, man, it wasn't that they posed a threat to us. It wasn't that we were scared. It wasn't that we wouldn't handle our business. It was that we were smart enough to understand that they were a worthy adversary that would get off just as quick as we would, you know. So it makes no sense and causing turmoil and friction where there ain't none. You know, it's all about unity. It's all about that push. It ain't about going against the grain or going against someone just because they're a little bit different from you. They had their culture. We had ours. They didn't clash. ¿Sabes qué? I like chicken and rice too. I like sticky rice and padek. You know what I mean? It's all good. They liked frijoles and tacos. Oh my. So it was all good. We got our chiles con papas on. And it was all good. But let me give you a little bit of the rich, deep history into that gang M.O.D. You know, hitters. Menace of Destruction actually derived from a gang at first called the Peace Mod. The M.O.D. Peace Mod. And it started in 1988. It started in 1988 in Fresno, California. It gravitated to Merced, Stockton, Sacramento. Of course, you got a few down south. And I think their headquarters is now located in Minneapolis, Minnesota, if I'm correct. Check me if I'm wrong. I can't call it like an alcoholic. At the same time, man, I'm just putting out there what I remember about them. Now, it's nothing but respect, and I'm going to put respect on the Asian community's name, and I'm going to put respect on the Asian gangs as a whole, because these motherfuckers ain't no suckers, man. They're with the business just like every other organization and every other street gang in California and throughout the whole United States. These motherfuckers are with that business, okay? Quietly as it's kept, I think M.O.D. is probably one of the largest, if not the largest, Asian gang, period, in the United States. These vatos know how to wiggle. Of course, a lot of Hmongs also started other gangs. Oriental Ruthless Boys, Mongolian Boy Society. These are just different gangs that came about right around the time M.O.D. was doing their thing, or a little bit after, you know. So M.O.D. had a heavy presence in Merced. You know, in fact, for many, many years, I thought M.O.D. was started in Merced. That's how deep they were. That's how deep they are. Now, I have familia that work in the school system. My tia used to tell me, man, them Asians, man, them Hmong kids from M.O.D., she even knew what M.O.D. was. She said, man, they pose a serious threat to the safety and security of everyone around us, you know, including myself. They were dangerous. But I would tell her, Charlie, these are good people. They're very humbled. They're about their business, no doubt about it. But if you don't fuck with them, they're not going to fuck with you. You know what I mean? They got to worry about their own enemigas and what they got going on. So anyways, M.O.D. was founded in Fresno, California. We all know Fresno's a grimy area. It's very gang related, heavily populated with Chicanos as well as Africanos, and of course Asians. You had the TRGs running around going at it with the Perros. You had the Cripas and the Bloods, man. At that time it was the Six Deuce Diamond Crips. You had Umthang Park. You had just a few different cliques that used to go at it. Of course, Bulldogs were pretty much going at it with everybody, and that's just what it be like, man. The Bulldogs are the predominant group, but the M.O.D held their own. Of course, when they gravitated to Merced, I would say in late 88, 89, that's when we started first hearing about them. I was a young buck, man. I was barely a pea in the pod, but the pod was going to grow up one time, and I was going to be Jack and that motherfucking beanstalk. So Trip, they were doing their thing, right? And we started to notice. But when we're noticing other gang members, so was law enforcement, and law enforcement started to come down on them heavy because these guys were catching multiple bodies. These guys were doing drive-bys. These guys had artillery. I can't even explain, and I won't explain what they had, but at the same time, I would just say, man, they were doing their thug thizzle, and in that fashion, right? They were handling their business. Of course, M.O.D, like I said, spread throughout the western United States and then gravitated towards that upper Midwest, man. They ended up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, I don't know how they did. I know it became their headquarters. I did time with a few guys from M.O.D. I actually did time in the California Youth Authority with the motherfucker that I'd like to give a big shout out to right now because he was the realest one that I ever met. His name was Booger from Merced, M.O.D, man. Shout out to that 301 8-ball. You already know what it is. Me and Booger, man, we plenty of times, man, we rode side by side with each other. I remember when he first got to Nellis, and he found out I was from Merced, and he gravitated towards me. You know, just us being from a similar area, being from that 209, we had love for each other. And I had heard his name. You know, I had heard his name in Merced. I knew he was about his business. I knew his brother was the one. And he was just a good guy, very humble, very smart, very low key, but at the same time would get off on you quick. And there was plenty of times, man, I found myself in situations in the square area with the South Sergeants. Of course, you know, at that time, the war was on. This was 91, 92, 93, so on and so forth. And it was popping. You know, the 90s were popping. I was a YA baby. I was established. I wasn't going nowhere, Holmes. And in that fashion, wait, hold up. Oh, you're going to take me off the main line? Nah, I'm not going to hold, right? I was going to stay right there and do my thing. And plenty of times, man, respects because Booger backed my play in that square area. Booger backed my play on the compa. Booger backed my play no matter what. You know, there was a time when several individuals decided they wanted to call me out for one reason or another just because my print was, you know, on Bangladesh or whatever the case may be. They weren't feeling me that day. And this guy was like, how about you see me? I'm from Merced too. Bang, bang. They were like, yeah, but we're not tripping off you. He said, but I'm tripping off you. So plenty of times he found himself in the mix for me. And for that, man, I respect him and I respect the whole M.O.D. You know, I had already known about him. I had already known what they were about, what they were capable of, and what they were doing. But what I didn't know was that in these other cities, they were accumulating numbers and accumulating soldiers, right? Now, there was plenty of areas, man, where they went at it with Norteños, they went at it with Sureños, they went at it with whoever they were going at it with, but it wasn't a lifelong war like, oh, we hate you to the fullest forever. You know, it was more based on, hey, you smacked our homeboy, we're going to smack two of yours type situations. It was based on city to city, hood to hood, base to base. However the wind blew that day is how they got off. Now, I know the ones that I ran into in Merced predominantly wore the color red. I'm not going to put them in that Crip or blood category because I can't call it like an alcoholic, you know, if they were really cripping or blooding. But what I do know is the ones in Merced did wear the color red. They were hooked up and clicked up with another group of Mongs that were called HBO, Homeboys Only. Those were kind of like their little homeboys. That was like dead end to ghetto boys, you know, very tightly clicked up, but at the same time, man, they're doing their own thing and wiggling their own way. And I knew Shorty from HBO. He was a righteous individual, man. We used to kick it. I've told stories about him several times, and he was just a real one. You know, we had a good relationship all the way from juvenile hall to CYA to prison to the streets to fuck everything. You know, it is what it is. But at the same time, I just respected these guys. And, you know, I don't know how they were wiggling in different cities, but I heard, man, it was on. People feared them. You know, in the late 80s, early 90s, man, there's not a motherfucker in California that can't say they didn't hear about M.O.D. and they didn't hear about the brutalness, the viciousness, and how they were terrorizing their own community. You know, they were feared. The Mongs were very deep. You know, in Merced, they had their own area on the west side. And you already knew it wasn't Hmong Town. It wasn't Little Vietnam. It wasn't nothing. They didn't have a name to it or a label or a rhyme or reason. But what they did have is an establishment of their own. And they were down. And there were several groups that they went at it with in the city of Merced. True Blue, Oriental Troops, the Oriental Ruthless Boys. You know, who else, man? Black Tigers. There was Laos boys, just several groups of Asians, man, and they all handled their business. But M.O.D, I'm not going to say stood up amongst the rest, but to me they did, just based on, I knew more about them, and I would always hear their names shouted out. I was always aware of where they were at all times, because I was scared they were putting in major work. Now, I seen some documentaries on Minnesota, man, and how they were doing their thing out there in Minneapolis, and I'm not going to lie, that has become headquarters for the M.O.D, for the Menace of Destruction. Where they changed their name from Masters of Destruction to Menace of Destruction, I can't call it like an alcoholic why they did that. You know, I'd be sitting here and I'd be lying, and then I'd probably be dying for doing something like that. But at the same time, man, they gravitated towards that name and they ran with it. And their headquarters is now located in Minnesota. Now, I remember I used to have a few friends from M.O.D, and we used to chop it up, and they were always back and forth to Minnesota. This was like where they went to check in, I guess. This is where I guess there's a heavy population of Hmongs, a very big Hmong community. And this is where they go to pretty much link up. Now, I do know in some cities, man, they wear the color blue predominantly. And, you know, like I said, in Merced, they wore red. More, I think, in California, they're more with the red color, whereas in Minnesota, I hear they're with the blue, right? Do I think they color bang on each other? Absolutely not. They're all one united organization. Not only are they a street gang, they are an organization to be reckoned with. Okay, now, of course, when they are incarcerated, they roll others. They roll with the other card, which is the makeup of the Polynesians, the Asians, and others being from other different areas, you know? And they're down, bro. They're down. They have their own bars on the yard, their own tables, their own part of the yard. Motherfuckers don't want it with them because they're very quiet, man. And the quiet ones are always the ones you have to worry about, especially in prison. It seems like the quiet guy is the one that'll put something in you very quick. You know, and people know on the streets, man, you don't fuck with the Asians because they have all the heavy artillery. They're going to hit you with the 50 cal one time at your door, C4 at your door, no beef, no more. But likewise in prison, man, they're not to be stepped on just because they don't have a cuete. Because sabes que, they know how to make pedazos as well. Ninja stars, you throw, oh my, sas. You know what I mean? You never know what can happen on the daily. Everybody poses a threat in prison. Motherfuckers are prisoners. They're convicts, you know? They ain't suckers. Believe that. You know, they didn't peel someone's cap, and they will continue as such. And in that fashion. But the Norteños always had some type of good camaraderie with them, is what I would say. That's a good word for it. It wasn't an alliance. You know, plenty of times, man, I remember we got into one little thing with some Africanos, and they actually backed our play. But let me tell you a story. So I was in Susanville. I was in the Oyo. And I knew in Susanville on Lassen on the 3-yard, there were several M.O.D members there. They had a big other car at that time, man. There was probably about 20 Asians, maybe 10 Polynesians. And for that, on a yard like that, a 3-yard, that's a pretty big car for others, you know. Then they had several other sprinkled out. But they were predominantly, all these others were actually in the gym. They were gym living. And so what had happened was one night we're chilling, me and my celly, we're in the Oyo, and we're looking to be transferred out. We're just waiting for ICC committee. We're going to go before committee. That's how it does it. They're going to tell you where you go, how you do it. And they're going to transpack you, and you're going to move on to another prison. And hopefully, man, that prison embraces you. If not, you're going to have to go get off or do whatever the case may be. It just is what it is, man. That's life in prison in the California Department of Corrections. You never know what you got coming. So, we're having tuna tacos tonight. Yay, yay. And then it's all good. So anyways, trip out. I remember them starting to bring up, it was probably about, I'd say 10 or 11 o'clock at night. You know, they already shut down the lights. Everybody's unrolled their mattress. Everybody's getting ready to lay it out, you know, to kick back. And they start bringing fucking numerous people in the Oyo. And I remember looking out of my cell, me and my celly, and a lot of them were Asians. I seen a lot of the vatos from M.O.D. They had big 301s on their stomach. One had Merced real big. Another one had Fresno blasted across his chest. And I knew that these were guys from M.O.D. as well as a lot of different Asian gangs. And of course, all Asians roll together in prison. They don't play the politics that they play on the streets. It's all united as one. They're for their race before they're for anything else. But these M.O.D. guys, man, they were thick there. This was probably the one time I seen them as thick as they were, meaning as deep. And they're all coming in, man. And these guys had smiles on their faces. They're looking like they got their motherfucking state issue and nothing but their issue, right? And then they start bringing in a lot of Southsiders. And I was like, okay, so you could pretty much figure it out. Being a convict, being around, you already know, okay, the others got into it with the Southsiders. It just must have went down. They really never got down with each other. So this was a shock to me because I was like, wow, I didn't even hear about this. I didn't hear nothing was brewing between these two groups. But obviously something kicked off. So my thinking was, okay, it probably just fucking got off. They got off where they were mad at. Something happened. So I started getting at this Asian. I shot a wheelie down. I shot my line down to him. And we reached out and we connected, you know, the one with Merced on his stomach. And I was like, hey, what's up, bro? I'm from Merced, this, and that. He was like, yeah, I know of you, man. You're from Dead End, this, and that. Yeah, absolutely. I said, what happened, bro? You know what I mean? If you don't mind me asking. One time, I was being metiche. I just wanted to know. I was being nosy. That it was cold that night, right? And I wanted to tell a campfire tale. And anyways, he told me, yeah, man, they had fought over a hot pot. One of the Asian guys' hot pot came up missing. They thought a Southsider had it. It actually was him that had copped a brand new hot pot. It was just a big misunderstanding, man, and it boiled over. And when the pot's boiling in prison, so I was scared there's going to be overflow, and then you're going to have to clean the stove, and so I was scared there's going to be manteca everywhere, and you're going to be all fucking disgruntled doing it. But anyway, so they got off, man. I said, you guys get off first? And they said, yeah, we got off first. We kind of fucking snuck up on them, got the upper hand, and that's why they were smiling, styling, and profiling, because they handled their business. Now, not to say the Southsiders didn't wiggle, because there's some fucking Asians that came out with their eyes popped out, right? So everyone got their issue. You know, two groups like that, two organizations like that, they're both dangerous. You know, they're gonna handle their business. And that's what it was, man. He didn't boast or brag or be like, hey, we fucked them up or nothing like that. It was just business, nothing personal. We handled our business. We're down for ours. Damn, I respected that. And that's why I garner a lot of respect for the group M.O.D. Guys like that, man, they weren't trying to talk too much. They weren't trying to put too much out there. It was just basically, this is what it was, and that's what it is, man. And now I got to do some push-ups and burpees. Oh, my. And they handled their business. Now, I heard plenty of stories. I've seen History Channel. I've seen a lot of documentaries on M.O.D. And a lot of people put their twists on it, man. They tell war stories about several individuals that get caught up. And quietly as it's kept, man, law enforcement has been on their heads. You know, a lot of these Asians, a lot of these guys from M.O.D. that you run into, they're not just in there for stealing a fucking carro. They're just not in there for because they got caught fucking smack back on fucking Chiva. That's not their stilo, man. They're in there for putting motherfuckers' brains on the pavement. These motherfuckers are in there for kidnapping people and taking them to different states and doing bad things to them. You know what I mean? Things they'll never forget. Things they'll never remember either, because they're gone. You know? They make people disappear. When we used to call this guy Vato Magic Man from M.O.D. Why? Because every time a Vato fucking has problems with them, he disappears, right? I ain't going to say his name because he's still making him disappear. But this is what it was. You know, so I had a lot of respect for them. Not necessarily fear. Maybe a little bit, right? But a lot more respect. Okay? And it just built throughout my whole lifetime. Even till now, man, I still respect their get down. I know over there in Minnesota, they are hitting them with RICO Act after RICO Act. They're trying to shut down their operations. You know, I'm not going to tell you what these guys are into because I don't know. But I know just like any other gang, any other street regiment, any other organization, they're probably into a lot of this and a little bit of that. Their hand is in the cookie jar. So again, they don't want just fucking one Oreo. You know what I mean? They want that double stuff. So they're getting their issue. But yeah, law enforcement has focused on them, and they're considered probably the most dangerous Asian gang, period. And that's just M.O.D. Like I said, the history of Merced has always been lovely. At one point in time, we did click up with them one day, one sweet day, like Mariah, and we did go get off on the Southsiders in Atwater. And like I said, it was all business, nothing personal, and maybe a little bit personal, but fucking Sasuke in the 90s, what wasn't, right? But I just like the way they wiggle. You know, I got a lot of friends from M.O.D. Shout outs to all of them. They know who they are. I respect them. Most of these guys now are all married with children. And one thing I like about M.O.D. is you're allowed to walk away from the gang or be walked out is what it's called, right? If you decide, man, I want to change my life, I'm getting married, I'm having children, you're allowed to do that. They're one of the few organizations where you're allowed to not necessarily turn your back on the homies, but allowed to live your life. Now, of course, they always have to help a homie out, man. If a homie's on the run, so I was scared, the doors will be open. That's the way the Asian community rocks. That's the way the M.O.D. and the Hmongs rock, right? Always. You know, so they're still part of it, yet doing their own thing. They're allowed to do that. Now, what they aren't allowed to do is tell on anyone. You know what I mean? That's called going out bad, and they will go out way bad. A lot of these guys, too, have a trial period. You know, I don't know necessarily in Merced or what cities, but I know there's a trial period of kicking back for about 9 months and being vetted and analyzed, kind of like a hang around before they're initiated into the group. And some of them are beat in, meaning they're jumped into the gang, just like any other group would do it. And some of them are blessed in because they have family members that are M.O.D. for plenty of generations, and so they just get right on in the mix. Whatever the case may be, man, this is an organization that's kind of clandestine, meaning that they don't, not a lot of people know the rules and regulations of what they got going on. There's a lot of intricate details that go into it. But at the same time, man, they are well known, meaning that motherfuckers know, just don't fuck with them because you're stepping into the unknown. Hey, who's black is they? Watch, I'll do anything, homie. I got the 4-5 piece. One time, M.O.D. So hey, who's black is that though? You know what I mean? I'm going to go this way because I'll get their M.O.D. over there. You know, hey, puta, I thought you were down, Holmes. It's just the M.O.D. Yeah, homie, watch out. Menace of destruction. Yeah, Simon, what does that mean, Holmes? First of all, they're a menace. They're of, homie. Destructive. After that means they might destruct me. I might self-destruct. So I'm not going down that block. I'm going to go over here. Who's over here? TRG's. Fuck it. So I'm going back. You know what I mean? And in that fashion, this is what they do. They instill fear. They instill some type of force to be reckoned with within people. And people are like, nah, I'd rather not test that soup because I was scared. It might burn, you know? And in that fashion. Anyways, man, shout out some respects to the M.O.D. Like I said, the menace of destruction is all love, you know. What they got going on in their various cities, man, is to be respected. Their toes are not to be stomped on. They're 10 toes down in the concrete, putting paint where it ain't, you know, making it happen. They've been doing it for several years, and they're going to continue to do it. Like I said, it's a California-based organization that has now gravitated throughout the United States. And believe me, don't fuck with them. You know what I mean? They're best to be left alone because you don't want it with the M.O.D. Because guess what, Sasuke? You'll be sorry. Bang, bang, man. I hope that you move fast with a purpose. I hope that you get everything that you want coming to you. Remember, at the end of the day, man, it's all about going out there struggling and striving for your familia with these times and with what's going on in YouTube and the world everywhere, man, where you got people trying to cause dissension and diversion, man. Just remember, there is no division here, man. It's all about black and brown and my Asian brothers. You already know what it is. Bang, bang, the gun. And in that fashion.